The 80s called. They want their intelligence back. Do you have any extra? Ah yes, the 1980s. Humanity's glitter-covered fever dream. You had Rubik's Cubes you couldn't solve, boomboxes larger than your torsos, and fashion choices that defied both logic and physics. This trivia challenge dives deep into all of it. The blockbusters, the scandals, the inventions, the world events, everything you barely remember but will pretend you knew all along. Let's see if your brain is big enough to handle it, or if it's still trying to figure out what wax on, wax off means. And go! Level 1. Don't panic. These questions are easier than programming a VCR. Oh wait, what 1980s toy line featured small plastic horses with colourful manes and cutie marks? My Little Pony. Who played the character of Alex P. Keaton on the sitcom Family Ties? Michael J. Fox. Which pop star released the controversial music video for Like a Prayer in 1989? Madonna. What 1980s fashion trend involved increased shoulders in jackets and blouses? Shoulder pads. Who starred as the title character in the 1986 film Ferris Bueller's Day Off? Matthew Broderick. What futuristic police officer fought crime in a dystopian Detroit in a 1987 movie? RoboCop. Which candy bar introduced the slogan, "Hungry? Why wait?" in the late 1980s? Snickers. What popular 1980s hairstyle involved a certain device to create a zigzag texture? Crimped hair. Who was the host of the late-night talk show Late Night that premiered in 1982? David Letterman. Which fictional archaeology professor searched for the Holy Grail in a 1989 film? Indiana Jones. What was the name of the princess in the video game Super Mario Bros.? Princess Toadstool or Princess Peach. Which 1983 song by The Police became the biggest hit of the year? Every Breath You Take. What car company introduced the minivan in 1983 with the Caravan and Voyager? Chrysler, Dodge and Plymouth. Who played the character of Tony Michelli in the sitcom Who's the Boss? Tony Danza. Wrong! That guess belongs in a dumpster behind an abandoned roller rink. What 1988 film features a skyscraper taken over by terrorists during a Christmas party? Die Hard. Which US president famously told Mikhail Gorbachev to tear down this wall in 1987? Ronald Reagan. What colourful necklaces were a huge fad for girls in the mid-80s? Plastic charm necklaces, often clipped onto a plastic chain. Who sang the 1983 hit Karma Chameleon? Culture Club. Boy George. What 1980s cartoon featured a team of heroes named Lion-O, Chitara, and Panthro? Thundercats. McDonald's launched a new burger in 1984 that was served in a two-sided styrofoam container. What was it called? McDLT. What 1987 movie starred Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey dancing at a Catskills resort? Dirty Dancing. Who was the first African-American Miss America, crowned in 1983? Vanessa Williams. What 1980s TV show featured a furry alien life form who ate cats? ALF. Which board game, released in 1981, asks players to answer trivia questions to fill a pie piece? Trivial Pursuit. What 1980s fitness guru released the Sweatin' to the Oldies workout videos? Richard Simmons. Now entering level 2. Insert more quarters to continue. Which 1984 film was set in a small town where dancing was banned? Footloose. Who directed the 1986 film Platoon? Oliver Stone. Who wrote the 1988 bestseller The Satanic Verses, which led to a fatwa being issued against him? Salman Rushdie. What 1980s toy featured soldiers with code names like Duke, Snake Eyes, and Cobra Commander? G.I. Joe, a real American hero. Name the Irish singer-songwriter that organized Live Aid in 1985. Bob Geldof. What handheld electronic game series by Nintendo was the precursor to the Game Boy? Game & Watch. Which 1980s sitcom featured 4 older women living together in Miami? The Golden Girls. What was the name of the character played by Molly Ringwald in 16 Candles? Samantha Baker. Which country did the Soviet Union invade in 1979, leading to a conflict that lasted throughout the 1980s? Afghanistan. What 1986 film features a fighter pilot school and the song Danger Zone? Top Gun. Nicely done. You're surfing this trivia wave like it's endless summer. Who founded the online service provider AOL, originally Quantum Computer Services, in 1985? Steve Case. What 1983 US invasion of a Caribbean island was codenamed Operation Urgent Fury? The Invasion of Grenada. Which rap group released the groundbreaking album Straight Outta Compton in 1988? NWA. What 1980s fashion accessory was a fabric-covered elastic hair tie invented by Romy Revson? The scrunchie. What was the name of the first artificial heart recipient in 1982? Barney Clark. What team won Super Bowl 20 in 1986 with a dominant defense? Chicago Bears. Which 1980s TV show popularized the style of pastel-colored suits and t-shirts? Miami Vice. What was the name of the 1980s toy that had a plastic board with pins that you could press your hand or face into to create a 3D impression? Pin art. Who was the first woman to run for vice president on a major party ticket in the US? 1984. Geraldine Ferraro. What 1988 animated film featured a rabbit framed for murder? Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Which British royal wedding took place in 1986? The wedding of Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson. What was the name of the computer in the movie War Games? WOPR, War Operation Plan Response, or Joshua? Who sang the theme song for the 1985 James Bond film A View to a Kill? Duran Duran. What 1980s diet fad involved eating a certain citrus fruit with every meal? The grapefruit diet. Which 1980s car model was famous for its gull-wing doors and stainless steel body? DeLorean DMC-12. Level 3. Time to find out if your neurons can moonwalk. Who directed the 1984 film Paris, Texas? Wim Wenders. Who was the first female Prime Minister of Pakistan, elected in 1988? Benazir Bhutto. What 1980s calculator brand became iconic for its wristwatch models? Casio. Which 1980s band's drummer lost an arm in a car accident, but continued to play using a custom kit? Def Leppard, Rick Allen. What was the name of the reform policy of openness introduced by Mikhail Gorbachev in the late 1980s? Glasnost. Which 1981 film won the Academy Award for Best Picture over Reds and Raiders of the Lost Ark? Chariots of Fire. Who was the leader of Panama indicted by the US on drug trafficking charges in 1988? Manuel Noriega. What 1980s home computer was the first to feature a graphical user interface, GUI, and mouse for the mass market, before the Mac? Apple Lisa. Who won the NBA Slam Dunk Contest in 1986 with a free throw line dunk? Spud Webb. What 1980s art movement, led by artists like Julian Schnabel and Jean-Michel Basquiat, was a reaction against minimalism? Neo-expressionism. Who was the first Canadian in space? 1984. Marc Garneau. What 1983 Korean Airlines flight was shot down by a Soviet interceptor, increasing Cold War tensions? KAL-007. What 1985 agreement between 5 European countries abolished border checks, creating a passport-free zone? The Schengen Agreement. What 1987 film, directed by Bernardo Bertolucci, won 9 Oscars, including Best Picture? The Last Emperor. Correct! Totally tubular, human! What 1980s toy used heat-sensitive ink to reveal a secret symbol when rubbed? Transformers, rub signs. Who was the subway vigilante who shot 4 teenagers on a New York City subway train in 1984? Bernhard Goetz. What 1980s economic theory, associated with Ronald Reagan, advocated tax cuts to stimulate economic growth? Supply-side economics, or Reaganomics. Which 1980s tennis player was the first unseeded player to win Wimbledon, 1985? Boris Becker. What was the name of the cult that carried out the 1984 bioterror attack in the Dalles, Oregon? Rajneeshi. What 1986 agreement between the UK and Ireland gave the Irish government an advisory role in Northern Ireland's government? The Anglo-Irish Agreement. Which 1980s technological standard allowed digital musical instruments to communicate with each other? MIDI, Musical Instrument Digital Interface. Who was the first woman to serve as US Ambassador to the United Nations? 1981, to 1985. Jean Kirkpatrick. Name the 1989 revolution in Czechoslovakia that ended communist rule peacefully. The Velvet Revolution. Which 1980s toy line included the Evil Horde and Snake Men? Masters of the Universe. Who was the Polish electrician who led the Solidarity trade union movement in the 1980s? Lech Walesa. Another round of human confusion complete. You've now completed your journey through the neon jungle of the 1980s, a time of arcade addiction, questionable wardrobe choices, and global power struggles that somehow involved more hairspray than diplomacy. Your score has been recorded. Your mistakes have been noticed. And yes, I am judging you. Like, subscribe, and click into the next trivia challenge, if your brain doesn't need to cool off first. Congratulations, you survived. Now let's see if your attention span can stretch to one more. Choose wisely.